Ooh, you got me just so crazy over you. We love Madonna, we love Madonna, we love Madonna, we love Madonna.
You're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna Louise, Veronica Ciccone. Hey everybody, it's Stefan.
Hey guys, it's Tony, and you only love me more when I'm miles away.
Such a good track. Everybody, today on the show, we welcome writer Marc Andrews, who wrote the new book, Madonna Song by Song. Welcome to the show, Marc.
Hi,
Hey,
thanks for having me. Hey, thank you. And I just wanted to say, any Ukrainian Madonna fans out there, we're thinking of you.
Yes, we are.
Marc, where are you? You're calling from across the pond today, yes?
I am. I'm from sunny London, and that's something we don't say very often here.
Yeah, especially an Aussie in London would not use the word sun in...
Yeah. Well, I moved to London for love and for marriage, which is a little bit very Madonna-esque, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're very happy that we were able to schedule this call with you. I read your book this week, and I'm just excited to talk to you about it and everything else that you've been up to.
Thank you. Well, hopefully you can understand my accent, and my accent hasn't got too English, too. So
No, you don't sound like Madonna, Guy Ritchie era at all.
Yeah, I'm laboring to hear your Aussie inflections. I'm very well versed in Australian slang, so you're going to have to step it up.
We speak to our nose with "G'day, mate. How you going?"
Yeah.
My God, I thought it was Hugh Jackman for a second. What? Nicole Kidman? What?
I get that a lot.
Well, before we dive into some questions, I will give you a proper introduction. Born in Melbourne, so I'm gonna mess this up. I always say Melbourne.
Melbourne. Like
Melbourne, just very quick. Melbourne.
Yeah. Born in Melbourne. There, it's my accent's terrible with that. Marc Andrews worked at Smash Hits in Australia and Smash Hits UK. He authored Madonna, the Unofficial Story, Madonna, the Material Girl Down Under, and contributed to Classic Pop's Madonna Special. He has worked at Media Week, Mail Online, and DNA Magazine. He's also the author of Revelations, 2 Weeks in Tel Aviv, Pop Life Inside Smash Hits Australia, 84 to 2007, and We Need to Talk, My Life as a Doggone Celebrity Journalist. So, and you're wearing a fantastic Madonna Justify My Love photo shoot T-shirt.
It's
very nice.
Justify My Book Tech tank top. Do you call it wife beaters or tank tops?
Tank tops.
Yeah, a wife beater is the white one.
Okay. Well, tank top it is then, yeah.
And I like it. That's a fantastic photo shoot.
It was an amazing, and you know what? It was perfect for that record too, if you think about it. I mean, this was the perfect match of visuals with the music, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it needed to be, everything needed to be stripped down from the excess of Immaculate Collection, and then it was almost like a reset for Madonna, and then boom, the clothes came off.
Exactly. Madonna as gay Leatherman was perfect for Justify My Love, really.
Madonna went Tom of Finland, and I loved it.
Exactly.
So, Marc, let's get started. It's very well documented that Australian Madonna fans are incredibly loyal, and they are legion. So tell us what it was like growing up in Australia as a Madonna fan, and what was your Madonna journey like?
Well, just very quickly then. So Madonna and I go all the way back to 1984. Which may be even before some of you are born.
Vintage.
Yeah, no, we do too. We do as well.
Good. So I remember the first time I went into a gay bar, which was in Brisbane, Australia, and that was 1984, and I heard two songs being played. One was Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Round Like a Record, and that made the place go off like a crazy party. And the other record they played was Madonna's Burning Up, and that turned the place literally into a sleaze pit. And I was like, that's my job. And from then on, me and Madonna, we were never far apart. And that same year, I had my first boyfriend, and he bought me my first Madonna record, which, of course, was a 12-inch, and a 12-inch of Like a Virgin.
Oh, nice. But, Marc, let me stop you right there. I mean, actually, in reading your book, I discovered that Burning Up was a bigger hit in Australia than it was anywhere else. Why do you think that was?
That's because of the TV show Countdown. So you may have, through the 80s, you may have seen this strange Australian called Ian Molly Meldrum interviewing Madonna.
Yeah, Molly Meldrum. Oh, yeah. Merry Christmas, Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So he was a very early proponent of Madonna. So, back in '83 it would have been. And he getting her video on the show, he would go over to New York and had her filming on the street saying, who is this Marley anyway? And stuff like this. And they became very close friends. And they kept that connection for years and years and years. And so obviously when she came to Australia for the first time, which was '93 for the Girly Show Down Under, she went and had dinner at his place. So that's how close they are, basically.
Oh, I love that.
It's one of the reasons, why Burning Up was a big hit, because it was on the Countdown TV show, which was shown Saturday and Sunday nights. So that constant rotation of the video, what got Madonna noticed then in the charts in Australia.
Indulge me with an answer to my question. So was that show Countdown on before or after Young Talent Time?
It was on, sometimes it was on at the same time. So you actually had to choose. Am I going to watch Kylie Minogue's sister Danny, or am I going to watch Madonna?
I know.
Yeah, so big choices.
Or watching Danielle perform Madonna songs, right?
Exactly. So, big calls. So, yeah.
It was like Sophie's Choice in Australia.
Imagine how difficult that was for us young gay boys in Australia at the time.
So you got a 12-inch of Like a Virgin and
yes.
Love at First Sight and...
Love at First Sight. And, then so I was a fan then for the next couple of years, listened to her records and bought them, obviously. My first CDs were Madonna. I won a competition, actually, and I won five Madonna CDs. I won a Who's That Girl competition. You had to describe Madonna, and I just wrote, she's that girl, and underlined it, and I won the competition. My winnings were to win the entire Madonna collection on CD, which then at that time was like 5 CDs. They were all my first CDs, the Madonna ones, so that was pretty cool. And then obviously I started work at Smash Hits in 1988, which of course is the 1 year of the 1980s when Madonna did nothing.
Yeah, she was busy in New York that year. She did a lot, but she didn't record any music.
Exactly. So, there was lots of other stuff going on. So that was, had Kylie Minogue to keep me very busy for that first year anyway. Then, of course, 1989 happened, and then all hell broke loose just like a prayer.
Well, let's get into some smash hit stuff. So you've co-written a book called Inside Smash Hits Australia, 1984 to 2007. And you've also spent time working in both the UK and Aussie editions. Mm-hmm. I was like a big consumer of Smash Hits UK in the 80s. I used to write into them, and one time they actually printed one of my questions.
Ooh, did you get a badge?
No, it was a question about Boy George, because he was my number one all-time pop star,
Okay. Boy George, I interviewed Boy George in 1989. The first time I came to London, I brought a competition winner over from Australia for Smash Hits, and I interviewed Boy George because he just happened to be at the record company at Virgin. And they're like, you do want to speak to George? And I was like, George who? And they're like, Boy George, of course. So Boy George was there, and I went and interviewed him, and he hated Madonna. I remember he hated Madonna, and he said to me, he said, so do you like Madonna? And I said, yeah, I do. And he says, how can you like her? How can you like her? I remember I went to her birthday party and she blew the candle out, and then she stood up and she said, that's the best blowjob I've had all year, kind of thing. I mean, who says that?
Well, you just answered my next question. I was going to, tell our listeners, aside from Madonna, what were some notable pop names or highlights, that you kind of came in contact with while you were at Smash Hits, but also a lot of our listeners in the U.S. may not be familiar with Smash Hits and its influence on pop music in other parts of the world. So please kind of fill us in.
Yeah, I'll give you the brief little history. So Smash Hits started in the UK in 1978. So it was considered it's still considered the pop music Bible, I guess. So, this is before we had the internet, before there were smartphones, before we had Wikipedia. So if you wanted to know what was happening with your favorite artist or who this person was, you bought Smash Hits every fortnight. And so in 1984, they launched an Australian edition, and at the same time, they also launched the US edition. And the US edition was called Star Hits for the first few years.
Yeah, I remember it.
And they were very big. They always had Duran Duran all over the covers for years and years and years. So I started at 88, was there in Australia for 2 years, then went to the UK edition for 2 years, and then I was asked to come back to be the editor for Smash Hits Australia from 1992 to 1995. And I think the really interesting thing here is the very different approach that the Smash Hits Australia took towards Madonna, and the Smash Hits UK took. So you may recall, if you were watching the beginning of the Madam X live theatre experience, at the beginning there's this bit where all the bad press that she's accumulated over the years sort of topples on top of each other. And at the very end, smack bang on top, is this big double-page feature from Smash Hits UK, from the Girly Show. And the headline is, "Calm Down, Grandma." And I remember at the time, I mean, so obviously Madonna's really still thinks that was too much. I remember at the time thinking, oh, they just think they're so funny. But if you think about it now, like in retrospect, it really was so ageist. I mean, she was 35 at the time. She hadn't even had her first child. And it was totally misogynistic as well, I mean, really. So that was their approach. And they were also, I remember when the sex book came out and everything, they had a big headline, "Has she gone too far?" and all this kind of thing. Whereas Smash Hits Australia, we were very sex positive. And I remember we had tear sheets of the sex book in the magazine and nobody batted an eyelid. And this was a magazine for teenagers. So two very different approaches to it. And so I think you can see two very different cultures, and the magazines reflected that, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I know. I remember Star Hits barely covered Madonna after she got rid of the Like a Virgin bangles and, the street urchin look. They stopped kind of covering her, and it became more about, like you said, Duran Duran and, all the teen idols like Bras and, Bucks Fizz and all that stuff. But yeah, it was like not happening for Madonna with Star Hits. And but I had a funny question too. I remember reading somewhere that, I forgot who wrote it, but it was like they were talking about Smash Hits, and they were saying it's like, yeah, they're on the payroll with Stock Aitken Waterman. That's why the magazine's like full of,
Stock Aitken Waterman were really a big part of why Smash Hits suddenly became a huge sensation, because it was just this blend of great pop music. I mean, there's some classic music there. Rick Astley, Bananarama, Mel and Kim, Dead or Alive. I mean, just to name a couple. The Donna Summer record.
Mandy Smith.
The Mandy Smith, she couldn't sing. I mean, and she was a teenage wife of Bill Wyman. But one of her songs they gave to Kylie Minogue as her next single. So actually, it worked out quite well, really. But
I think it was Never Too Late. Yeah.
No, it was Got to Be Certain was the one that they gave from Mandy. They said, you can't sing it. Well, we'll give this to Kylie, because they didn't actually have a follow-up single ready for Kylie, because they didn't imagine she was going to be successful. It was very interesting. So, because I don't want to sort of preempt this too much, but I've actually written the Kylie Minogue song by song book, which is due to come out at the end of next month as well.
We were going to talk about that a little later.
Yeah. So anyway, tell all of our listeners also about your Facebook page dedicated to Smash Hits and what they can find on that. And I'm guessing because it's Facebook, that's a good place for them to connect with other fans of Smash Hits. It's called
Vogue-tastic. I guess if you just look for Vogue-tastic Smash Hits, it'll come up. So the shocking thing is, when I was writing the Smash Hits Australia book, this is after the Smash Hits edition had closed, all of the archives just got thrown away, just got trashed. And I mean, and this will kill any Madonna fan as well, because we used to have at Smash Hits, we had these big files kept of all the big stars. And in those files, we had press clippings, cuttings, and we had all these color transparencies of photos and things. All of that got thrown away. And it's subsequently we've also found out that happens to the UK. They threw everything away. So what now happens is there's a couple of Smash Hits fans who are amazing people. And if they're listening to this, thank you so much. They've gone and scanned as many issues as they can find and sort of put them as an archive. And we go through and curate that on a daily basis. So, like 40 years ago, Yazoo were on the cover of Smash Hits, and 30 years ago, Marky Mark was on the cover. Or, today is the birthday of Kathy Dennis. This is when she was on the cover. And also, because people passed. Like last year, we had Nick Kamen, who was a close associate of Madonna's for a while. He passed. Yeah. And so we went back and dug through all the stuff that he'd done. And he had a front cover of Smash Hits and lots of other stuff as well. So, we archived that and curated that as well. So, if you're into pop music, it's a really great place. Tomorrow's, we've got a fantastic thing on Vogue, 32 years since Vogue was released. We found the song word. Exactly. The song words, there's an amazing ad. I don't know if anyone's seen the ad that Warner Music UK did, which is beautiful. It's like a work of art. And we've got that. Plus, we've got the original review of Vogue that Smash Hits did, which is hilarious because they got it so wrong. They just say, this song is so boring, it's never going to work. I mean, can you believe it? And I know the journalist who wrote this, and just as a little adjunct to that, that journalist, I remember, had tickets to Blonde Ambition. And the next day, on the Monday morning, I saw them in the office and they said, "Oh, I decided I'd just stay home and watch TV and not go."
What?
Oh my God.
I can hear jaws collectively dropping around the globe at that.
Yeah. No, Mark, you just reminded me, actually, the first time my friends and I saw Nick Kamen was in Star Hits or Smash Hits. And I mean, we were obsessed. I mean, we had to wait like 2 months for that album to like show up. And I mean, it wasn't that great, but still, it was amazing to discover him and to know that he worked with Madonna, you know.
Yeah, the Madonna track he did was kind of good. The rest of the album, not so good. The second album he did had the Tell Me track, which is pretty good, actually.
Yeah, Tell Me is so good, yeah.
Actually, the track after that, which probably no one in the US has ever heard, I Promise Myself, is terrific. If you want the ultimate sort of, Euro disco song, I mean, it was number one in Italy, number one all over Europe, and it was a great big hit. And that was 1990, I think it was, because I remember driving around Europe in 1990 and just hearing that everywhere. And it was like, wow, that's a great Nick Kamen song.
Yeah, I just think it's hilarious because now kids find music on TikTok and I had to find it in a magazine and then have to go find the actual music to listen to, you know? Yeah. It's like a two-step authentication
process. Exactly. It's so much easier now. I mean, if you want to find about Nick Kamen, just go to YouTube, look at all the videos and, go to the Wikipedia page and you can read all that stuff kind of thing. So, I mean, there's so much available, but that's also something about my book too. I mean, there is so much available out there now that it's almost too much. And a lot of it's very dry. It can be often very academic, sometimes almost like they're writing dissertations. And I often feel it kind of can suck the joy and the passion out of the music and the artist. And so what I wanted to do with my book, in particular the Madonna book, was that I wanted to make sure that it was fun, but not forensic. That was my key goal of the book.
But you accomplished that for sure.
So before, we will get to the book in a little bit. I did have another question about your tenure at Smash Hits. You had the unique opportunity to be in Madonna's presence as a journalist during many sought-after high-level events. So I believe we know about the Truth or Dare premiere in Cannes, where she had the big open jacket reveal. Big reveal, and then you also were you attended the girly show Down Under. So tell us about those and any other close encounters you had with the Queen.
Yeah, take your time. We're going to be quiet and let you tell the story.
I'm just trying to think of all the important ones. I have to also say that one of the greatest things that I ever did at Smash Hits was speak to Liz Rosenberg. I mean, Liz Rosenberg, who people may not remember, was Madonna's spokesperson for literally most of her career, pretty much until she left Warner, which would have been 2008, I guess. And she was hilarious. I mean, I remember I did a feature for Smash Hits UK, and we were going through all the rumors that, about Madonna kind of thing. And Liz said, "Okay, just hit me up with them." And I mean, she was literally like a Jewish stand-up comedian. She was. And so you go through them. And I remember I asked her, so there's a rumor that Madonna might be Bart Simpson's girlfriend in The Simpsons. And she went, "Ha! He wishes." And that was it. I mean, that's all you needed. That was the perfect response. I mean, she was just boom, boom, boom kind of thing. And she was fantastic, I have to say. And that was one of my joys was talking to Liz Rosenberg. And I really hope that in the biopic that's coming up that she features in that, because I think that's such an important relationship. Here she was a female, VP or management executive at a record company, which didn't happen very often. And Madonna, the world's biggest pop star, one of the world's biggest pop stars, and together that the success they created, it would be a real shame if that's not part of that biopic. I think because she's such an important part of the Madonna story. Anyway, that's my little Liz Rosenberg spiel.
I'm going to put a phone call through to Bette Midler. I think she'd be perfect for the role.
Right?
She would be, yes. So the two big events. So the Truth or Dare. So I was working at Smash Hits UK in 1991, that was, and they sent me to the Cannes Film Festival for the premiere and the party and the launch of Truth or Dare, which was known as In Bed with Madonna in the rest of the world. It should have been glamorous and fabulous. I mean, obviously there's the big moment where she walked up the red carpet and turned around, dropped the coat, and there she's in her panties and her bra and a dirty grin on her face, and the world's like, wow. And that just flashed across the world, of course, that image. Alec Kashishian was there doing press. Most of her dancers were there. For the premiere. And also there was, of course, the big party that Harvey Weinstein put in the bill for, because, he was one of the people who were involved in producing the movie. So I remember being at the party, I had Tina Turner standing on one side of me. I had Dolph Lundgren, who you may recall was kind of like
he was so hot back in that time.
The Scandinavian Sylvester Stallone on the other side, and then I had Harvey Weinstein.
Dolph Lundgren is the only reason why I watched that terrible He-Man Masters of the Universe movie, was because it was Dolph Lundgren in just basically shirtless in a loincloth the entire movie.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Look, if it was good enough for Grace Jones, it must have been good. So that's all I can say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he was there at the party, and then I remember Madonna and her entourage literally came in, and Madonna's not a tall person, in case anyone doesn't know that. She's quite small, and most of her entourage are also quite small. And I'm like 6'2", so I'm just sort of standing there, and it's literally like watching a hovercraft move past you, like this sort of cluster of Madonna and co whooshing past, like a hovercraft kind of thing, and it went into this party. And yeah, it was fabulous. It was amazing. But I remember also that I was so sick. I had the worst food poisoning while I was there in Cannes.
Oh no!
Something that I'd eaten. So trying to be at the premiere, trying to do this story, trying to interview Alec Kashishian, chasing after him, and doing this party. It was just a nightmare. But of course, it looks fabulous in the magazine. So that was the important thing. Mm-hmm. So that was my truth of their story. The girly show is quite a different story. So that was when Madonna first came to Australia for the Girly Show tour, 1993. I mean, literally, Australia stopped for 2 weeks. Matt from Madonna Australia Facebook, if you're listening to this, I love you. I love your work. Madonna was there. She was staying in a hotel just down the road from our office at Smash Hits, actually. There were crowds of people outside the hotel, which is the same hotel, by the way, where Michael Hutchence killed himself a couple of years later. But that's another.
Wow! Yes.
So it's quite famous for that respect. So Madonna was there, and her record label had this big party for her down at Darling Harbour in Sydney. It was, and I was invited, which was nice. And I had my +1. Now, my +1 was my fabulous friend Justin. Justin, if you're listening, I love you too. He had a pair of bright pants made specially for the party, as you would, of course. And as we got to the entrance, he saw there was a big gaggle of drag queens at the entrance. And he, of course, knew them all, and he whooshed up to them. I think one of them was even called Madonna, by the way. And he went up to the drag queens. And, of course, he went in, and they went straight up to the VIP area where Madonna was. And so I had to stay downstairs with the celebrities. How terrible is that? Eating the free food and dancing and stuff. And if you're an Australian listening to this, you'll know that there were sort of like home and away celebrities like Ika Brahma, Melissa George, who became quite well known later on for doing stuff with Friends.
Yeah.
And Kate Ritchie, who also became a radio announcer in Australia. And at some point in the proceedings, everything stopped at the party and the show came on. And because this is still the erotica era, so there was a performance of a simulated flogging, and I think it was in rubber or latex or something, on a podium. And Madonna decided she, of course, was going to come out and watch this. So she came out with all the gaggle of drag queens and my friend Justin. They stood and came down the stairs into the middle of the stairs. I was underneath the stairs with my home and away celebrity buddies. And I remember Kate Ritchie touching Madonna's foot and silently screaming, "I touched Madonna's foot!" So the show's going on. And then, of course, my friend Justin just couldn't stop himself. And at some point, he just said, "Oh, they're not doing it properly." To which Madonna turned to him and said, "Well, why don't you show them how it's done then?" And he was speechless. He didn't know what to say, which never happens to him. But, he'd been spoken to by greatness, of course. So that was quite special for him. And so anyway, the show continued. Afterwards, I remember I went to see Donna Droy. So if you Google images of that party, the defining image is Madonna lying on the surfboard, being surrounded by all these Australian lifeguards who stripped down to their Speedos. They had like long blonde hair and uber tan kind of thing. And Madonna kind of looking like, what's going on here kind of thing. And I remember Donna's Glory was running around the party, and I went up to her because I'd interviewed her the day before. And I said, "So, Donna, is Madonna enjoying herself here?" And she's like, "You know what? Those guys, so not Madonna. She's so not into this." And later on, of course, I realized, well, she was probably dating Tupac Shakur at the time, if you think about it, 1993. So she definitely wouldn't have been into these guys, that's for sure. But I had just one little smash hit story that I remember that I thought was quite interesting. So when we were at the magazine, and this is when Madonna was in the country, a famous Australian photographer came into our office. His name's Tony Mott, M-O-T-T. And he brought with him this set of photos, transparencies, as we call them, of Madonna all dressed in her cricket gear. So if you've ever seen the cricket whites they wear when they play cricket, cricket hat on and the pants, and she had the cricket bat, all these amazing photos, this photo shoot that she'd done at the Sydney Cricket Ground. And we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. What an exclusive. This is going to be such a great front cover. And next day, Liz Rosenberg calls. Madonna wants to keep this for her private collection. Sorry. And that was that. So those photos we got to see, but no one else has ever seen them. And I don't know where those photos are, but somewhere there's some amazing photos of Madonna playing cricket in Australia.
They'll come out later, I'm sure.
Well, one would hope so. Maybe that should be on the deluxe edition of The Girly Show Down Under or something, perhaps.
There you go. The re-release.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we finally get all that stuff that we've been promised by this new deal from Warner, that's what I'm hoping, because, Madonna's back catalogue has been so badly looked after and tenured. When you compare to what male artists of her stature have gotten, it is shameful that, we've gotten such bad stuff. I mean, this year we have to get a special erotica, special edition. Next year is 25
One
years
would
of
hope.
Ray. Next year's 25 years of Ray of Light. There has to be something special for that, surely. That's my hope anyway.
I believe we're going to get like an HD video released, and yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Well, look, I would like to see the ABBA things, for example, the ABBA deluxe editions of their albums. You get an album, which is a CD of the original album, plus extra tracks, bonus tracks. Then you also get a DVD of the videos, plus live appearances, extra stuff that they've done, kind of thing. Plus there's a really glossy booklet, a really into liner notes and everything you ever wanted. I mean, with Madonna, you could have, of course, extra CDs of remixes. That's what I want to see. That's what we need and deserve, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I would love if, 30 years for Erotica, and that album is her least streamed album on streaming platforms. It's like I want a high definition of The Girly Show concert film. I want, I've been seeing Mary Lambert, who did the Like a Prayer video for Madonna. She's been on Twitter because apparently Warner Brothers released the high def version of Rick Astley's latest, old school videos.
Where's Madonna's? Yeah, and that's the thing.
Exactly.
Male artists, this wouldn't have happened, I tend to think. I mean, she's up there with the Bruce Springsteens, the Princes. They have all had, such great care of their back catalogue. Where's the level of care that Madonna's had? Certainly now she's back at Warner's. She deserves that. I mean, this week, for example, it's been very interesting. We had this, I would call it a dump rather than a drop, of the American Pie remixes. Why now? I mean, it's 22 years. It's not 20 years. It's not 21 years. It's not 25 years. What's the reasoning? It doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason to me. It just seems so strange, And then also it's the 10th anniversary this week of MDNA, but not a sign of any deluxe edition, not a sign of any word of anything to that, which really, just floors me, because there's some great remixes there that, need to be dug up and, put out there. That's for sure, I'd say.
Yeah, I think what happened was her team must have been on a plan to release a bunch of the remixes of previous singles before the Warner Brothers deal took on. And then I think, so they're still probably on a schedule of sorts, which is why I think American Pie got out, but they probably shelved some other things because they know there's
they seem to have mixed and moved stuff around. Like I mentioned in the book, that this one was planned for release and that didn't happen, or suddenly this one popped out and this one didn't. I mean, it's nice to have these remixes, and obviously, the big thing is, we've had these Frozen remixes, that she's doing now. So I know we wanted to mention talking about that as well, and the Frozen remix.
Yeah. Before we get to that, I just wanted to add that, that you guys are right. I mean, what's going on with these remixes that are being dropped is that they're actually not being released by Warner Brothers. They're licensed to Rhino, which is
their strategic marketing arm, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. So they have been on a schedule. Like, for example, they were supposed to release the Love Don't Live Here Anymore, and those got shelved. And there was another one.
There needs to be a coordinated approach, and this is my issue. Yeah. And this is also my beef with Madonna on social media. Look, if you want to keep putting pictures of yourself on the toilet, okay, that's your thing. But if you're also releasing one of your records, why not promote that? Why not say something about that instead? I mean, this is what social media, for me, is what Madonna should be using it for. Promoting all the stuff that's coming out and she's doing, rather than another picture of on the toilet, basically. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think she even knows about the Rhino releases. I think that those are kind of like
which is really sad, Which is really sad because I would hope that she's involved in that. That's the thing. I mean, hopefully, she must at some point, or her team must have, given the yes to that. I would hope so. She needs to be more involved in it. Really, that's the sort of stuff you don't pass off to other people. You need to be in control of that. It's your legacy.
Yeah, I always imagine her assistant comes and drops a stack of papers in the morning. And he's like, okay, Madonna, are you going to sign off on the, misspelled Who's That Girl vinyl this year for Record Store Day? And she's like, sure, sign off on to the next one, She's like, what about, the Rhino American? Oh, those are out? Okay, sure, boom. And then she's on to the next thing. That's how I think
she's busy writing a movie. Yeah. She's got other things to do,
But listen, while
your legacy, take your legacy seriously, please, because it really is important. This stuff, that's the thing, because it will define you as an artist. I mean, this year is such an important year because it's 40 years since she started recording music, basically. So this is a milestone year when people are looking back at her back catalogue, which is why the book has come out now, kind of thing. So you want to make sure that your house is in order, basically, when this is all happening.
Exactly.
And you've got your biopic on the way, which will lead people to go through all your back catalogue too.
Exactly. From your mouth to the goddess's ears. I mean, while we're talking about the remixes, I wanted to just say that your exhaustive research shows because in the book, I mean, it's like every detail about every remix is there, and I even learned a lot about some unreleased things that I didn't know about.
Some of us actually say to me, maybe your next release should be Madonna remix by remix, because actually you could do on that, because some of those songs have 10, 12 remixes, so just who remix them by themselves is kind of a book in itself, really.
Exactly, especially after we get the 50 number one dance hits collection. But yeah, let's talk about the current Frozen remixes and the videos that are being released. I know there's one that's been announced. What are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on this, third act career?
Frozen is my favorite Madonna song of all time, and it probably will be my favorite Madonna song of all time. So for me, it's untouchable. Having said that, I'm open to hearing other versions of it, and hearing the Fireboy version, I have to say, you know what? It's taken what is a very haunting, sad song. He's actually made it even sadder. This heartbreak rap, if you listen to it, he's taken and made it really really sad kind of thing, which is quite interesting and is true to the original nature of the song. And it sounds like there's going to be more Frozen remixes to come as well. What it did, though, was it reminded me to go back and listen to all the other Frozen remixes, which I'd totally forgotten about or hadn't listened to for years. And I rediscovered the Stereo MCs remix, which is so amazing.
I love that one.
It's the one that has dated so well. The Victor Calderoni one, not so well, but this Stereo MCs.
But I rediscovered
amazing.
I rediscovered the widescreen mix. I listen to it like every day because I love the opening, and it's such a beautiful representation of that song. And you're absolutely right.
Ethereal, isn't it?
Yeah, you can remix Frozen till the cows come home, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. I love the fact that it's bringing the song to a new generation. Hopefully, people will then discover that and go back to the original Frozen, because it's such a great record, and that album it comes from is such a beautiful piece of work. There's a reason why that is the greatest Madonna album of all time, if not one of the greatest pop albums of all time, because you just listen to that from start to finish, and that is truly a work of art.
So tell us about some of your favorite Madonna remixes. I know you mentioned that one night you were in Ibiza just minding your own business in the middle of a dance floor. As one does. And then all of a sudden you hear something familiar coming out of the speakers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this was it was either end of September, beginning of October 2019. So it literally would have been like before the Ibiza party season closed down, which obviously hasn't reopened since then. It hasn't even reopened this year. So it was kind of like the last great gasp of dancing. And a friend of mine was having a big birthday there, so I went there to Ibiza for that. And it was the Glitterbox event. And they had headline acts like Basement Jaxx, and I think
Oh, wow.
Chemical Brothers were on the bill. So lots of big names. And Honey Dijon was on the bill too. And that's who I was excited about because, I'd heard the I Don't Search, I Find, which I think is the best piece of Madonna, the best Madonna record since Confessions on a Dance Floor. And I just thought she got it so right on that remix. So I was so happy to see her on the bill. I thought, I've got to go and listen to her. So I went to find her, and she was playing in what I think you could probably best describe as a glorified toilet downstairs. I mean, there was sweat dripping from the walls. Well, I presume it was sweat. And she was wearing her tank top, giving it some in the middle of this little area where people were all sort of dancing around her and her posse and stuff. And what does she do? She drops this amazing house mix of Vogue. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever heard. So of course I switched on my phone and recorded like 2 minutes of it, as you would. And I thought, that's my moment kind of thing. This is my Honey Dijon moment kind of thing. So when I heard that she was involved in Madonna's, 50 number one dance hits project, I was like, yes, this is the match that was meant to be. This is perfect. We don't need Mike Dean. We don't need Diplo. No. We need Honey Dijon. This is what needs to happen here, basically. Let's hope this is where it's going to go. So if you listen to this mix of Vogue, it basically, she's put a Vogue a cappella over the top of Royal House's Can You Party, which is a club hit from 1988, which is written and produced by Todd Terry.
Oh my God, you're so good.
It's also that song is also very famous for another reason, because that same year it became the first record which was combined rap and house and had a hit. It was called Hip House back then. So you might remember this track from the Jungle Brothers, I'll House You. That's where it was
Girl,
also
I'll
used.
house you.
Yeah, I
Girl,
remember.
I'll house you. Girl,
You're
I'll house you. I love that song.
That's the one. So that's a really seminal classic house tune. So then to have the Vogue track stuck on the top of this, perfection. That's all I could say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you had sent it to us before we chatted today, and it is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I never use this word lightly, but I was gagging. I was like, this is so. It makes me so hopeful for maybe an inclusion in the upcoming remix collection. Yeah. If not, I want Honey Dijon to be like Shep Pettibone in Immaculate Collection and just do everything.
Exactly. That's what we all wanted Shep Pettibone to have done for the whole of the You Can Dance remix album, which he should have done, basically.
Yeah. We I think if Honey Dijon is going to go that direction with the 50 dance remixes, fans will be pleasantly pleased. I think that would be wonderful to have someone come in and like not just give us the remixes that already exist, but like totally reinventing these songs and just a total like throwdown of these tracks. I would be remiss if other people out there in the world didn't get a chance to listen to this Honey Dijon Vogue remix. So hang around at the end of the episode, people, and maybe you'll get a little special treat. Hint, hint.
Stefan, this reminds me of when the Offernissim Israeli rave remix of
God Control.
Oh my God Control was floating around, and you're like, yeah, maybe somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
You've heard, Mark, you've heard that, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, I was dancing to that at some dance floor somewhere or other. It was. It might have even been Tel Aviv. I don't know, but that's a shame. That's a shame that one didn't come out, because that was a great remix too. I mean, Offernissim really did amazing work with Madonna. I mean, his remix of Medellin. I mean, anyone who can take it is basically some kind of spicy reggaeton cha-cha song and turn it into Egyptian disco and make it sound cool and amazing. That's truly, that's a gift. That is truly a gift.
We love a DJ that takes us on a musical journey, but Offernissim every time takes us to somewhere exotic and somewhere where there's trance music playing all day.
Yeah, I felt his offers remixes for the Madam X era were just like right on point. Like he just got that album. It's amazing how
he did, and he took it to the next. He took it to the next level. I mean, he even got a writer's credit, I believe, on the Medellin remix, because he basically added in that bit from the video, and then there's a whole different sound and vibe on the record that really has nothing to do with what's on the Madam X album. And that's being more than just a remix. So that's really being that's reproducing, basically.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me in tone to the Miami mixes of "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," because it was just a complete rework, and it took you right there.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, look, it would be amazing. Why doesn't she dial up Shep Pettibone and say, Shep, come in and see what else you can do on some of these things? I mean, Shep's just running some place, gay resort in New Jersey. He must have a bit of spare time in his hands. I mean, how amazing would that be? Surely, Shep, come on, remix a couple of tunes for me. Who wouldn't love that?
I know. He doesn't even have time to be on our show, so, I mean,
Yeah,
he must be very, very busy.
I'm telling you, this summer I'm going to stop by his place in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and I'm just going to be like, hello, Chef. We want you on the show.
Exactly.
Waiting for you.
It's the 30th anniversary of Erotica. It's the 30th anniversary of This Used to Be My Playground. Chef, it's a big time kind of thing. I do remember interviewing Chef for Smash Hits when Vogue came out. And also I think I interviewed him when Rescue Me came out as well, because Madonna wasn't doing interviews, so we got Shep Pettibone. And I remember asking him about Vogue and him saying, I didn't understand why Madonna wanted to do that. It was just so passé, I thought, kind of thing, when she decided to do this. But, luckily she did. And also the other thing I think very interesting with Vogue, which, obviously we talk about in the book, is, it was originally a B-side. Imagine if Madonna had gone with her original plan for that to be a B-side. If someone at Warner Music had not been clever enough and smart enough to say to Madonna, no, this is going to be your next thing that's going to launch your tour, your album, your movie kind of thing. We wouldn't be here probably talking about Madonna on this podcast if that song had been I said the thing.
Right, because Vogue was, that song was everywhere in 1990. Like, it was every hour on local radio for like 2 weeks when it came out, and it was everywhere.
I want to tell you a really interesting story, that, if I can as well, if that's all right, about Vogue. This is also from 2019 when I went to a wedding in Bulgaria, of all places, and my friend asked me to do the music for it. And the wedding was held in the mountains in middle of nowhere in Bulgaria, like where these tiny little villages are. And we had this big dance party there with all the friends and so on. And all these Bulgarian women, peasant women, were brought in to help out with the food and the serving and everything. And when the dancing started, they just stayed to watch. And when Vogue came on, they rushed to the dance floor, all these Bulgarian peasant women, and started voguing. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? And afterwards I said to my friend, I said, what is this? And they said, this was one of the very first songs that we ever heard, a Western song, in 1990 when the wall came down and when, the Soviets had left kind of thing. This is a song of freedom for us. So that's what this song means.
Wow.
Voguing means freedom for us East Europeans. And that's why it's such a great, important song for us.
All right, I'm going to go cry for a minute, and I'll be right back.
Well, so Marc, you brought up Confessions a couple of minutes ago, and I do wanted to ask you about this. You apparently have some unique swag and giveaways that you've received throughout the years. I've heard a rumor that there's a Confessions disco ball that was gifted to you by Warner Brothers.
Yes,
right.
We want pics, or it didn't happen.
Yeah, can we talk about this? What is this?
Well, this is my prized position, and I have to tell you, it's still at some friend's place, I hope so, in Australia, because obviously I haven't been able to get to Australia for 3 years, because Australia's been literally landlocked for the last 2 years. So when I go back in June, I'm hopefully it's still there, it's still intact. But when Confessions, all the journalists were asked to come and review the record, we were given this big box, and I remember it was decorated like the album cover on the outside, and then when you opened it up, inside was a big mirror ball, which of course, you would imagine. Now this mirror ball sits on a cone, and I don't know how it does this. It defies gravity, but there's a button that you push, and it spins around on this little globe kind of thing like this. So you actually have your own little, Confessions on the Dance Floor mirror ball going, swirling around you kind of thing. It's insane. It's amazing. And it's something that I treasure that almost as much as my patchouli candle that I got in 1989 for Like a Prayer.
Oh, wow. No, I've been coveting that disco ball since I first saw it. Yeah, it rests on this, it looks like a party hat. It's,
yeah, exactly.
And it has an M on it. I mean, it's so well done. I was like, why can't we have this attention to detail in every album rollout?
Why can't we have this when it's time for the Confessions, special edition? This is kind of what we need to have, to get you in the shops. This is the special edition. Get the free mirror ball, kids.
Yeah, seriously. I would love some fresh merch, there are some erotica t-shirts that I would love to buy. There's some Ray of Light merch that I'd love to get, just give it to me. Give it to me.
Give it to me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a great stuff. Being a journalist, I have to say, you get so much stuff given to you. And also, back in the 80s and 90s in particular, when record companies had huge budgets, they would just throw so much stuff at you, take you on trips all around the globe. I mean, I did so many different trips here and there just to interview different people. I mean, that stuff just does not exist now. That world, just died. As literally, as soon as Napster happened, that world disappeared so quickly, like you wouldn't believe it. So it's a whole era that doesn't exist, and people can't really even understand that anymore.
Yeah, in your book, there's a couple of items that are extremely limited and hard to find that I actually did not even know about one of them. For example, there's the Bedtime Story CD single book with these amazing illustrations and the lyrics. I mean, I never knew that existed, and I found out about it in your book. And then also, I'd completely forgotten about it until I read about it again, was the extended remixes of Confessions that came out on 4 different vinyls that just kind of like appeared. And
it went under the radar, didn't it, kind of thing? So like,
exactly,
DJs can know about this, and everyone else, if you discover it, then good, but otherwise, who knew about it, kind of thing, yeah.
There were only 1,500 copies made, so it's like, they're probably all out there, but, this is something that should be released in streaming or on CD, because I think it's incredibly important to the Confessions era.
It is. It's part of the legacy. I mean, all of those, that's the album in particular, because, look, it's the dance disco album kind of thing, so you want all those those remixes, those extended versions. That's kind of what you want in there. You want the good times to keep going, basically, and they, not to stop, basically.
So in the making of your book, I mean, how already, being a Madonna fan since the beginning, like Stefan and I, there's a lot that you already know. There's a lot that you take for granted, but then there's a lot that maybe we were misinformed through rumor and innuendo in the 80s and 90s because there was nothing to, we weren't able to corroborate the facts, I guess. So did you learn anything new in your research, or was there anything that you thought was canon that turned out to be incorrect or false?
Look, there's lots of stuff. Look, there's so much information out there, which is great now. And also, obviously, there's information which is out there now which wasn't available, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So, you're finding out all these things now, which, back then nobody had any idea about. I thought I knew everything because, I've written all these magazines and been such a Madonna fan. So when I was really researching every single track, it was great because I really had to focus on finding the best information, curating the best information about each song. So there were certain things that even I didn't know. I think in particular that the thing that I didn't know was on the I'm Breathless soundtrack, there's the song Back in Business. I didn't when I was doing the research, I went to the songtimes.com website, and they had all this information which I never knew, that actually, he'd written a new song called Back in Business because Warren Beatty and Disney didn't like Madonna's version. And that's why it was dropped from the movie, and this new one was put in place instead at the last minute. So that's why there's actually 2 Back in Businesses from Dick Tracy. So that was something I didn't know as well. And what I also wanted to do with the book was make sure that it was contextual as well. So you get an understanding what's going on in Madonna's life then. Why is this single picked, or why is this happening? Why is this song important? Is it because, she's going through the middle of a terrible custody battle? That's why this song has such significance, for example. Or another thing may be, why did Madonna never work then with Stuart Price again? He did this amazing record, and yet nothing. They didn't work together again. Why is that? And so, working on what I know and the story kind of thing, you'll read it in the book then, what the probable reason is for that kind of thing. But, just trying to source that kind of stuff and make a point to that without trying to be gossipy and tabloidy, but, but giving you an informed view that this is what's happening in Madonna's life. And also, let's not forget that from 1989 onwards with Like a Prayer, Madonna basically puts her life on the record, often quite coded, but it's on there. So, it's looking at the codes, looking at what's going on in her life. What is she trying to say? Who is she talking about? Whose person is this, the baby that she's talking about here then? Could it be Warren Beatty's baby? Is it Sean Penn's baby? Who both had babies at this time? That kind of stuff, So giving you a bit of contextual information then, I think that makes your understanding of the track much, much more informed then.
So, hey, Stefan, I think it's time for our favorite part of the podcast. What do you say?
Everyone loves your favorite part of the podcast. So, Marc, every guest on our show gets a little something we call the lightning round. It's just something meant to be off the top of your head, wherever you're at in your Madonna journey today. Don't overthink it too much. Favorite Madonna song?
It's Frozen.
Favorite Madonna music video?
Favorite Madonna music video? There's so many, but Vogue.
But yeah, good one. Favorite Madonna tour?
The Girly Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Favorite Madonna movie?
Desperately Seeking Susan.
Nice. And favorite Madonna look? And it can be from a photo shoot, a video, in person.
The one I'm wearing, of course, Madonna is the leather man. On the
Madonna
cover
of Finland.
Madonna of Finland, exactly. That's the one, yeah, of course. Look, here she is again, taking something from, gay culture and bringing it to the mainstream and yet making it her own. I mean, that's the beauty of Madonna, definitely, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like appropriation. It feels like, she knows this, she understands, she gets this, and it's cool, yeah.
Well, she's almost normalizing it, I feel. A lot of people do criticize her for appropriation of sorts, and I think it's more of Madonna making it look normal,
Mm-hmm.
Madonna sort of embracing it and saying, yes, this is okay. This
exactly.
You are okay.
And to Madonna, where she came from the New York club roots. I mean, hanging around with all the gay boys, Martin Burgoyne, her gay best friend. I mean, all the stuff that she's gone through. That's her culture. I mean, that's where she came from. She was queer before there was queer, basically. Let's not forget that.
Right.
Amazing. Well, Marc, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. I just decided that when we get the release of the 50 #1 dance hits, we'll have you back so we can kind of go over that. I think that would be fun.
A track-by-track analysis.
And also, a little budgie told me that you're working on a book about Kylie Minogue, who is like one of my goddesses too. So please tell us what we can expect and when that will be out. And yeah, just kind of tell us how much you love Kylie.
Okay, well, I mean, look, the Kylie one is the same format, the song-by-song format. So actually, the way I came to this is by a friend of mine wrote the ABBA song-by-song, Ian Cole, who's the world's leading fan authority on ABBA. So he wrote the ABBA book. And he came to me and he said, look, I love the work that you've done on Smash Hits and for DNA, that's the gay glossy magazine in Australia I write for. And he said, I love what you do. Can you help me with this? And so I said, sure. So that's how I came to this format. And then I thought, I'd really love to read the Madonna one of this. And then there wasn't one. So I ended up writing it and then went into lockdown. 6 months later came out. And then I said, I could probably write you a Kylie Minogue one as well to the publisher. And they said, oh, that's great. And then it went to the next lockdown. So that was the next 6 months. So here they are. They're both coming out. The Madonna one's out now and the Kylie one comes out next year. I think what's interesting for Madonna fans, though, in terms of Kylie, is Kylie was always a Madonna fan. She was, as a kid, I mean, she and her sister used to perform and so on. What's really important, though, to know is that it's the Like a Prayer album that really turned Kylie from just a pop singer into an artist. Because when she heard that album, according to Mike Stockton, Stockacre Waterman, she heard that and she said, I want to write songs too now. So what did she do? Mm-hmm. She went and grabbed Stephen Bray, of course, and wrote a couple of songs on her Rhythm of Love album, which came out in 1990. That's the beginning of Kylie as the artist. And if she hadn't done that, that's thanks to Madonna. If she hadn't probably done that, Kylie probably wouldn't have had the career that she has now, where she went on to work with Nick Cave and Coldplay and Pet Shop Boys, Sisters, and they're still having #1 albums in the UK and Australia to this day, kind of thing. So her story is very interesting. Her journey is very interesting. Where she's come from. I mean, she started. She was a mechanic on a TV soap opera. She went from that to being, the princess of pop. That's quite a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we could talk about Kylie all day, but when that book comes out, I will absolutely get it. And I also want to let everyone know, especially our American listeners, if you want to get Marc's book, I bought mine from Amazon.co.uk. And Marc, tell everyone else where they can find your book and other channels and where they can find you on social media.
Okay, I mean, look, the book should be available worldwide now, globally. So also Fonthill Media is the publisher. So if you just want to go directly to their website, you can order it there as well. I think in Australia, it's probably coming out a little bit later in July. But if you want to order through overseas, if you can afford to get it, if you can't wait, then you could get it from the UK or the US ahead of time. The best place to find me really is probably Vogue-tastic on Facebook. Send me a message there if you're interested, or, I'm kind of around on Facebook, that kind of thing. So if anyone needs to catch me, I'm not so social media. I mean, I'm certainly not Madonna when it comes to social media. I mean, I kind of think, you know
Let's
what?
hope not.
You don't need pictures of me in the toilet, that's for sure, on my social media. So I'm just so old. So I'm kind of like, if I've got something to promote or I've got something to say, I'll put it. Otherwise, I'm going to go outside in the sun with my husband and my dogs, basically.
Well, and remember, everyone, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MLVC Podcast. Please feel free to donate to the podcast on Venmo at MLVC Podcast, or think about becoming a subscriber on patron.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast. Help keep quality episodes like this keep coming in the future. Marc, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute delight. I loved your book. I'm going to go and start looking at all of your Facebook posts because I want to see some of those Nick Kamen articles. And remember to stick around because you might hear a little something in a couple seconds.
Oh, stop it.
Until next time, everybody.
Talk to you later.
Let your body move to the music. Hey, 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 come on.